Murder. She wrote 1984-1996 stands as one of television's most iconic mystery series, with Angela Lansbury's portrayal of Jessica Fletcher charming audiences around the world. Across 12 seasons, the show featured a dazzling array of guest stars from Hollywood legends to rising talents who brought its small-town secrets and big-city scandals to life. But time has claimed many of these remarkable actors, leaving fans with cherished memories and a bittersweet sense of nostalgia. In this tribute, we look back at the beloved performers from Murder, She Wrote, who have tragically passed away, celebrating their lasting impact on a series that continues to capture hearts decades later. Angela Lansbury was born on October 16, 1925 in London, England, and stepped into the role of Jessica Fletcher in 1984 at age 59, transforming herself into the most recognizable sleuth in television history. Jessica's intellect, warmth, and razor-sharp instincts earned the adoration of millions, yet few knew that Lansbury guarded the character and her own public image with the precision of a chess master. Her early life was a mosaic of loss and displacement. Her father's sudden death when she was 9 shattered the family's stability, and her actress mother's constant travels left her feeling abandoned. Evacuated to the U.S. during World War II, Lansbury learned to mask vulnerability behind poise, quickly mastering the art of presenting strength while hiding turmoil. Her Hollywood ascent was not without bruises. She endured years of typecasting as conniving older women while still in her 20s, and suffered a humiliating firing from a major film in the 1960s after a studio executive deemed her too matronly for the role. Behind closed doors, she was known to negotiate fiercely, overruling directors, demanding script rewrites and blocking cast changes she disliked. Her most private and painful crisis came in the late 1960s when her children Anthony and Deirdre fell into drug abuse, and Deirdre became entangled with associates of the Manson family. In an act of desperation, Lansbury relocated the entire family to rural Ireland to sever dangerous ties. Friends spoke of her lifelong guilt over time lost with her family and her struggles with depression, particularly after losing close friends to addiction and suicide. Despite her immaculate public image, she carried a quiet ruthlessness in protecting her career, ensuring Jessica Fletcher's dominance on screen for 12 seasons. Lansbury died on October 11, 2022 in Los Angeles, California, of natural causes just 5 days before her 97th birthday. Her $70 million estate included prime Beverly Hills real estate, an extensive art and antiques collection, decades of residuals and theater investments, leaving behind both a fortune and a legacy carefully curated to perfection. Ron Masak was born on July 1, 1936 in Chicago, Illinois, and took on the role of Sheriff Mort Metzger in 1985 at age 49, injecting Cabot Cove with a grounded, often exasperated presence opposite Jessica Fletcher's investigations. Off-camera, Masak's charm masked a competitive streak and a persistent frustration at being typecast. Raised in a modest working-class family, he grew up with a fierce drive to succeed, but also a sensitivity to rejection that he kept well hidden. Before Murder, She Wrote, he became a ubiquitous face in television advertising, earning the moniker King of Commercials, but the commercial work that made him wealthy also made casting directors skeptical of his range. He was once embroiled in a behind-the-scenes dispute with a major advertising agency over unpaid royalties, and whispers in the industry hinted at a long-standing feud with a fellow cast member over comedic timing and stolen punchlines during filming. His most crushing setback came in the late 1990s, when a network sitcom in which he was slated to star was abruptly canceled after the pilot was shot in an event that left him financially overextended and emotionally drained. Masak maintained a long, stable marriage to his wife Kay and raised 6 children, but friends recalled moments of private bitterness when discussing the roles he never got and the projects that slipped away. He endured personal loss with the death of a sibling from cancer and battled his own health scares, including heart issues, which increasingly kept him from public appearances in his later years. Despite this, he continued to work in voice acting to maintain income, though at a far slower pace. Ron Masak died on October 20th, 2022 in Thousand Oaks, California from natural causes at the age of 86. His $1. $5 million net worth derived from decades of acting, commercial royalties, and modest property holdings was left to his family, a modest legacy in comparison to his peers, but one that reflected a steady, if not always headline-grabbing career. Tom Bosley was born on October 1, 1927 in Chicago, Illinois, and in 1984, at the age of 57, he assumed the role of Sheriff Amos Tupper on Murder. She wrote a character defined by his folksy charm, gentle bumbling, and an enduring faith in the intelligence of Jessica Fletcher. Growing up in a working-class family during the Great Depression, Bosley witnessed financial instability, the death of relatives, and the kind of social ridicule that forged his cautious, self-contained personality. He learned early to mask vulnerability with humor, to work tirelessly, and to carefully navigate public and private boundaries, a skill that would serve him both in Broadway's competitive theater world and in the brutal Hollywood television industry. His career was a study in contrast, brilliant stage work, including a Tony-winning performance, paired with long-running wholesome television roles, such as Howard Cunningham in Happy Days, yet punctuated with professional setbacks when his reputation for being quietly stubborn created tension with directors and co-stars. One particularly jarring episode involved his endorsement of an internet company in the late 1990s that turned out to be a $13 million investor fraud. While Bosley was not implicated in wrongdoing, his name became linked to scandal and briefly overshadowed decades of career respect. His personal life was marked by a steady marriage after an earlier divorce, devotion to his daughter, and a deliberate avoidance of tabloid spectacle, though health issues, lifelong smoking, eventual lung cancer, and a staph infection forced him into difficult medical struggles in later years. Tom Bosley passed away on October 19, 2010 at the age of 83 in Rancho Mirage, California, from complications of a staph infection compounded by lung cancer. At his death, he left behind a net worth estimated at $5 million, accumulated through decades of work in television, film, and stage, as well as smart investments and real estate. A financial stability he had long striven for since his turbulent childhood, cementing a legacy that balanced professional brilliance, private challenges, and a final quiet dignity. Julie Adams, born Betty Mae Adams on October 17, 1926, brought to life the glamorous yet gossipy Eve Simpson in 1987 at the age of 61, transforming the small-town real estate agent into a captivating figure whose flirtatious charm and keen sense of local intrigue kept audiences enthralled. While Eve projected vivacity and shrewd social awareness on screen, Julie Adams' real life was a tapestry of struggle, resilience, and subtle scandal. Raised in a modest family, often moving across the Midwest, she faced economic instability, periods of loneliness, and the challenge of carving identity amid frequent upheaval experiences that informed her adaptability and understated toughness. Breaking into Hollywood during the 1940s as a Universal Pictures contract player, she experienced the often harsh studio system, including image policing, typecasting, and intense pressure to maintain a flawless public persona. She weathered these storms while avoiding the sensational scandals that ensnared many contemporaries. Though her personal life included private heartbreak in two marriages, one to actor Ray Danton, which ended in divorce and subsequent relationships that were cautious and discreet, highlighting a preference for independence over public drama. Professionally, she maintained a steady career, choosing smaller television roles and guest appearances over fading into obscurity, all while balancing a public image of poise and decorum. Despite a relatively scandal-free professional life, she faced quiet trials, the loss of peers, the fading attention of Hollywood, and the struggles inherent in maintaining relevance as a mature actress in a youth-focused industry. Julie Adams passed away on February 3, 2019 in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 92 from natural causes, leaving behind a net worth estimated around $2 million, which included personal property, acting residuals, and carefully maintained investments. William Windom was born on September 28, 1923 in Manhattan, New York City, and joined Murder, She Wrote in 1985 as Dr. Seth Hazlitt at the age of 62. Seth's gruff warmth and grounded skepticism made him an ideal foil for Jessica Fletcher's optimism, But Windom's real-life personality was more mercurial and far more combustible. Raised in a privileged but emotionally distant family, Windom carried a deep sense of isolation that he masked with humor, quick wit, and restless energy. His acting career was peppered with both critical highs and humiliating lows. He won awards for television work, yet also earned a reputation for being difficult, walking off sets mid-shoot, and openly arguing with directors. His most devastating professional failure came in 1975 when he starred in a Broadway play, so savaged by critics that it closed in just 3 days, sending him into a spiral of heavy drinking, compulsive gambling, and mounting financial trouble. Windom's private life was equally volatile. 5 marriages, multiple divorces that devolved into public legal battles, and fractured relationships with several of his 6 children, some of whom spoke candidly about his long absences and emotional unavailability. He was also haunted by the suicides of close friends in the industry, which fueled recurring bouts of depression. Those who knew him said his sardonic charm could turn caustic in an instant, making him both captivating and exhausting to be around. In later years, Windom found some peace in competitive chess and long sailing trips, though health issues increasingly limited his activities. He died on August 16, 2012 in Woodacre, California, from congestive heart failure at the age of 88. His $5 million estate included his sailboat, rare chess sets, and a modest California home, much of it quietly left to estranged family members, in a final act as unpredictable as the man himself. Herb Edelman was born on November 5, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York, and in 1984, at the age of 51, he took on the recurring role of NYPD Lieutenant Artie Gelber in Murder. She wrote his gruff, streetwise charm and reluctant respect for Jessica Fletcher, masking a keen comedic sensibility. Growing up in a Jewish immigrant household as the son of Mayor Mike Edelman and Jenny Greenberg, his early life in Brooklyn was unremarkably modest yet unconventionally layered. He studied veterinary science at Cornell, dropped out, then served in the U.S. Army as a radio announcer, before abandoning theater studies at Brooklyn College to work as a hotel manager and taxi driver. Behind that genial everyman image lay persistent inner turbulence. Edelman endured a bitter divorce from actress Louise Sorel, 1964-1970, then a quieter but emotionally charged long-term relationship with his saint. Elsewhere, co-star Christina Pickles, rumored among cast insiders to have been tempestuous though never publicly dramatized. Though he avoided tabloid-level scandals, sources close to him whispered of frustrations with the chronic typecasting that kept this tall, reportedly 6.5, yet profoundly likable actor from leading roles and of moderate impatience on set when jokes flopped or schedules ran late. His greatest career misfire. A short-lived starring vehicle, Big John, Little John, demonstrated how even his charm couldn't carry a show to longevity, a blow to a man who had tasted ensemble success but coveted star recognition. He remained a workhorse, popping up on The Golden Girls St. Elsewhere, Knots Landing, Fantasy Island, and of course Murder, She Wrote across 10 episodes, yet always just shy of marquee status. His personal stability unraveled further under the smothering haze of emphysema, the result of a lifelong smoking habit that eventually choked his spirit as much as his lungs. He died on July 21, 1996, at age 62 in Los Angeles of emphysema, and was laid to rest at Montefiore Cemetery in Queens. At death, his net worth was conservatively estimated between $1 million to $2 million, modest Hollywood wealth, reflecting decades of steady work rather than blockbuster paydays. Richard Paul was born on June 6, 1940 in Los Angeles, California, and began portraying Mayor Sam Booth in Murder, She Wrote in 1986 at age 46. Sam Booth was a colorful, eccentric small-town mayor, often obsessed with optics and petty politics, whose comical vanity brought a touch of levity to the show's darker murder plots. Yet Paul's real life was shaped by far grimmer beginnings. Raised in a cramped apartment by a struggling family, he was the middle child in a household where affection was scarce, his father dismissive of the arts and his mother too overworked to notice his growing isolation. Teased in school for his weight and quiet nature, he learned to mask hurt with humor, a coping mechanism that would define his acting style. He excelled academically, nearly earning a PhD in psychology, but abandoned it to chase an acting dream that bewildered and angered his family. The choice strained relationships permanently, and for years he was treated as the failure who threw away a stable career. Hollywood was no kinder. Paul was typecast as the quirky friend or comic relief, repeatedly losing leading man opportunities to more conventional faces. In the 1980s, his refusal to participate in inappropriate casting couch practices cost him several network roles, quietly blacklisting him from high-profile projects. He endured one of his most humiliating career blows when he was abruptly fired from a recurring TV role mid-season without explanation, replaced before the next episode aired. Colleagues admired his charity work for the Braille Institute and animal causes, though some whispered that his reserved, sometimes aloof nature made him hard to connect with. He never sought wealth or fame, and by his final years he was living quietly, avoiding Hollywood's social circuits entirely. On December 25, 1998, he died of cancer in Los Angeles at the age of 58, leaving behind a modest estate valued under $1 million, mostly a small home savings and personal collections, proof that he had chosen integrity over fortune in an industry built on compromise. George DiCenzo was born on April 21, 1940 in New Haven, Connecticut, and appeared in Murder, She Wrote in 1984 as Inspector Lombardo at age 44. Lombardo was sharp, persistent, and unwilling to indulge Jessica Fletcher's meddling, at least until her insight proved impossible to ignore, making him one of the show's more memorable one-off investigators. DiCenzo's own story began in chaos. His parents' marriage was turbulent, marked by frequent arguments and relocations that left him perpetually uprooted. As a boy, he was socially awkward, a target for bullies, and learned early to retreat into books and old films as an escape. Determined to reinvent himself, he trained at prestigious acting schools, where he earned a reputation for intensity that could inspire or intimidate. His career had early highs, but also crushing setbacks in the mid-1970s. After a critically praised stage run, he lost a coveted Broadway role when the director branded him impossible to direct, a reputation that would haunt his casting prospects. Television and voice acting became his lifeline. His work as Orbach in She-Ra and appearances in films like Back to the Future cemented his versatility. But behind the scenes, he clashed with producers, often over creative control. The most devastating blow came in the late 80s when he was signed for a major network drama, only to be dropped days before filming amid rumors of a heated confrontation with a showrunner. Outside of acting, he taught drama, but his strict, often confrontational style left some students feeling humiliated, while others credited him for sharpening their craft. DiCenzo avoided Hollywood parties and industry events, fueling whispers of grudges with influential peers. He valued privacy over publicity, but it came at the cost of being overlooked for career-making roles. On August 9, 2010, he died of sepsis in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania, at age 70. His estate, worth roughly $2 million, consisted mainly of real estate holdings, teaching income and long-term royalties, a fortune modest by Hollywood standards, but substantial for a man who had survived decades in a brutal industry without ever selling out his principles. Ken Swofford, born July 25, 1933 in Duquesne, Illinois, stepped into the world of murder. She wrote in 1985 at age 52 as Lieutenant Catalano, a no-nonsense, skeptical law enforcement figure whose initial antagonism toward Jessica Fletcher slowly yielded to reluctant admiration. Growing up in a small-town working-class environment, he endured economic hardships and a childhood marked by teasing and social alienation experiences that both hardened him and contributed to a simmering volatility in adulthood. His career, while long and steady, was interspersed with controversy, clashes with directors, and tense interactions with co-stars, painting a portrait of a man both respected for his professionalism and feared for his blunt temperament. In 1989, his life took a dramatic and very public downturn when he was convicted of felony drunk driving following an accident that injured others. He served 28 months in prison, an episode that disrupted his career, strained familial relationships, and left a permanent imprint on his reputation. The aftermath of incarceration saw him attempt a cautious professional comeback, accepting guest roles and voice work even into his later years, but he never regained the steady momentum he had once enjoyed. Swofford's personal life was equally turbulent. His marriage, while enduring through periods of crisis, was strained by the consequences of his legal troubles, and his children reportedly distanced themselves during his incarceration, leaving him to confront personal isolation alongside public scandal. He also battled the private demons of alcoholism and occasional impulsive behavior, with friends recounting episodes of manipulative tendencies and moods that made him difficult to work with despite undeniable talent. Ken Swofford passed away on November 1, 2018 in Pacific Grove, California at the age of 85, with his cause of death remaining undisclosed. At the time of his passing, his financial legacy was modest, estimated under $1 million, reflecting a career of dedication and perseverance marred by personal misjudgments, legal battles, and the harsh realities of Hollywood's unforgiving nature, leaving behind a story both cautionary and compelling, the shadow of unfulfilled potential lingering over his decades-long career. Jerry Orbach was born on October 20, 1935 in the Bronx, New York, and began portraying the irreverent, streetwise private detective Harry McGraw in 1985 at age 50. On-screen, Harry was brash, sarcastic, endlessly clever, and deeply loyal to Jessica Fletcher, providing comic relief while also demonstrating a surprisingly tender moral core, which resonated with audiences and gave Orbach one of his most memorable television roles. Orbach's childhood was marked by financial instability and repeated relocations, creating a profound sense of insecurity that he carried throughout his life. As a teenager in the Bronx, he was frequently ridiculed by classmates for his worn clothes, thick accent, and occasional stammer, which he concealed behind relentless humor and a ferocious drive to succeed. His Broadway career, which would later define him, was rocky from the start. He was fired from several productions for clashing with directors, often accused of dominating scenes or refusing to take direction, and his perfectionist streak sometimes alienated co-stars. The late 1970s brought a gambling problem that drained significant portions of his savings, forcing him to sell prized possessions and negotiate with creditors while trying to maintain a public image of success. Orbach's personal life also bore scars. His first marriage ended in a bitter, widely publicized divorce that included accusations of infidelity and manipulation, and though his second marriage was more stable, there were whispered rumors of affairs and occasional tempers that left even close friends uneasy. Professionally, he was known for explosive arguments with producers and executives, including a particularly infamous confrontation that cost him a lead television role and effectively led to a brief industry blacklist. Throughout this period, he was secretly battling prostate cancer, which he concealed from nearly everyone, as he continued to work grueling schedules on stage and screen. Jerry Orbach passed away on December 28, 2004 in New York City at the age of 69 from prostate cancer, leaving behind an estate valued at approximately $10 million, including Manhattan real estate, Broadway royalties, residuals from Law & Order, and a private art collection. Gregory Sierra was born on January 25, 1937 in Manhattan, New York, and stepped into the role of Lieutenant Gabriel Caceres in 1985 at age 48, portraying a character whose intensity, principled nature, and constant moral struggle mirrored Sierra's own life experiences in a world often unwilling to accommodate him. As Caceres, he brought a simmering seriousness to the screen, frequently caught between rigid bureaucracy and his personal sense of justice, winning the audience's admiration for his understated heroism. Sierra's upbringing in Spanish Harlem was a crucible of hardship. Growing up in a cramped, impoverished apartment, he endured discrimination for his Puerto Rican heritage. A volatile father who abandoned the family, and constant threats from street gangs, forcing him to develop emotional resilience and a guarded, often stoic demeanor. His early career promised opportunity, but was repeatedly derailed by his own perfectionism and clashes with authority. He walked off sets over minor script disagreements, publicly criticized co-stars for lack of preparation, and gained a reputation for being difficult to work with, which limited the number of substantial roles he was offered. The deepest personal wound came in 1978 when his second wife tragically took her own life, plunging him into months of reclusive mourning and heavy drinking. Subsequent romantic relationships were often stormy, fueled by allegations of controlling behavior and a tendency to emotionally withdraw, leaving a trail of broken connections. Financially, Sierra managed to maintain modest stability through television residual stage work and careful investments, though his net worth at death was relatively modest at $2 million, reflecting a career that never fully capitalized on his talent or popularity. He died on January 4, 2021 in Laguna Woods, California, from stomach and liver cancer at the age of 83, leaving behind a life that blended professional respect with deeply personal struggles, unfulfilled ambitions, and haunting memories of a career that was often sidelined by both personal demons and industry politics. Steve Forrest, born September 29, 1925 in Huntsville, Texas, took on the role of Captain Ned Larkin in 1986 at age 61, embodying a composed, authoritative, and skeptical figure who eventually learned to respect Jessica Fletcher's sharp intellect. Larkin's stoicism and professionalism mirrored Forrest's own personality and life, yet beneath the surface he carried the hidden scars of an extraordinarily challenging upbringing during the Great Depression, long hours of grueling farm labor, and a youth marked by poverty, hunger, and the constant need to appear unshakable. His military service in World War II left him decorated, but emotionally scarred, a fact he rarely disclosed publicly. Hollywood provided him both opportunity and frustration, though he was connected to fame through his brother Dana. Andrews Forrest fought tirelessly to establish an identity independent of family reputation, often clashing with directors and producers who underestimated him or attempted to limit his creative input. In the 1970s, he lost a major film role after publicly denouncing a producer for suspected financial misconduct, a morally courageous but career-damaging move that led to years of fewer offers and financial insecurity. Forrest's private life reflected similar complexity. A long marriage endured under strain from rumors of on-set affairs and extended absences, while friends described him as emotionally distant with children and close family. He refused to accept smaller television roles, prioritizing pride and artistic integrity over income, which forced him to sell properties and make careful financial decisions. Known for his charm, yet guarded nature, Forrest also cultivated a meticulous, almost military-like discipline, enjoying golf and charity work while avoiding media attention. He died of natural causes on May 18, 2013 in Thousand Oaks, California, at the age of 87. His estate, valued at roughly $3 million, included his California residence, a diverse set of investments, and extensive military memorabilia, all quietly distributed to his heirs, according to his will. Keith Michell was born on December 1, 1926 in Adelaide, South Australia, and in 1988, at age 62, he slipped into the role of Dennis Stanton on Murder. She wrote a former jewel thief turned insurance investigator whose polished charm and flair for bending rules made him both irresistible and morally ambiguous. Born into a world far from Hollywood glitz, Michell rose through rigorous classical training at the Old Vic and Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, before earning fame as a commanding King Henry VIII in The Six Wives of Henry VIII, a role that cemented his reputation across stage and screen. Yet the private Keith was far more idiosyncratic than his regal image suggested. He was a gifted illustrator and singer, beloved for the whimsical Captain Beaky song, and radically health-conscious, insisting on macrobiotic meals and meditation, long before the wellness influencer era. Though never embroiled in scandal, those who worked with him later hinted at a brittle stubbornness. Stories circulated of aborted auditions because he declared the material beneath him, or of artistic rifts with directors unwilling to accommodate his poetic eccentricities. His most devastating setback, a high-profile stage production in London that collapsed mid-run due to budget overruns and creative clashes, rumored to have left him financially strained and professionally retrenched for months. In his personal life, he was famously private. No sensational marriages or affairs flooded press wires, just a quietly cultivated aura of refined mystery that both fascinated and frustrated biographers. Michell weathered losses, the death of his first wife, the fading of some of his earlier stage monuments, but discovered renewed visibility in television's golden era with Murder, She Wrote and other recurring roles offering stable income and appreciative audiences. He died on November 20th, 2015 at age 88 in Hampstead, London. His estate was estimated at around $3 million, modest, yet respectable, a reflection of a career driven more by artistic integrity than commercial ambition, leaving behind a legacy where the most compelling scandal was simply how little fame he craved and how quietly luminous his art remained. Ken Howard was born on March 28, 1944 in El Centro, California, and played Hank Shipton in Murder, She Wrote in 1985 at age 41. Hank was the kind of character Howard excelled at, confident, authoritative, and morally steady, often becoming the linchpin in tense, high-stakes episodes where Jessica Fletcher unraveled dangerous plots. But Howard's own life was riddled with instability. His youth was marked by financial hardship and a complicated relationship with his father, whose high expectations created constant pressure. Determined to escape small-town obscurity, Howard clawed his way into the entertainment industry, winning a Tony Award early on, but his career was a cycle of breakthroughs and breakdowns. He endured multiple canceled shows, publicized creative disputes, and a notorious moment in the early 90s when he walked off a television set mid-shoot over a script rewrite, an act that temporarily damaged his reputation and cost him valuable roles. His personal life was equally turbulent, married 3 times, including one divorce that played out in tabloids with allegations of infidelity, financial disputes, and emotional abuse. In 2000, after years of health struggles, he underwent a kidney transplant, his half-brother, the donor, a turning point that changed his outlook, but did not quiet his combative nature. As the first president of the merged SAG-AFTRA union, he championed actors' rights but alienated some members with aggressive tactics and politically charged decisions. Friends described him as magnetic in public but controlling in private, capable of inspiring loyalty or resentment in equal measure. Even in his later years, health issues from shingles and prostate cancer weakened him physically, but never silenced his voice in Hollywood labor politics. On March 23, 2016, Howard died in Valencia, California, at the age of 71. His net worth of around $2 million included Los Angeles Property Union, pension funds, residuals, and investments. His influence on industry labor reform endured, though so did the mixed feelings he left behind, remembered as both a champion for actors and a man whose drive often crossed into ruthless territory. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from Murder, She Wrote who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.